With only 4 weeks left before the primary runoff election on April the 2nd, 1996, we plan to visit at least 4 churches every Sunday. One of my more welcoming visits was attending service at a synagogue in Jackson. I chose to be introduced as Kevin LaVigne Antoine, because LaVigne is a Jewish name from the Hebrew male given name Levi, which means joining. It was at the synagogue when I first referenced Isaiah 6:8. It describes how Isaiah is taken into heaven, and an angel touches his lips with burning coal. But he is not burned. Instead, he is purified. Next, he hears the voice of God asking for a messenger to go down to earth to tell the people to change from their ways. Who would go for us? Asked God to his angels. Isaiah, the only human in heaven, said, "Here am I, Lord, send me." I entered the synagogue as Kevin LaVigne, how I spell LaVigne. I departed the synagogue, how the Jewish spell LaVigne, L-E-V-I-N-E. Not all of my visits to the black churches were as welcoming as my visits to the synagogue. As I mentioned earlier, my experience at a black church in Copiah County was happening more frequently now, especially in the city of Jackson. My campaign would coordinate a visit to a church where I would be introduced and allowed to speak for a few minutes soon after my arrival. It was done this way to consider the various times I would arrive, as I would visit many church services on a Sunday. We would arrive only not to be recognized or invited to speak by the black pastor. However, if the city council person, the person that I was running with, a white female, was at the same church or had a representative in attendance, she or her representative would be recognized and invited to speak, while I would just sit there trying to be cool. Barrett supporters were passing out lots of money to the black preachers with strings attached, not to recognize me or invite me to speak when I arrived at the church. Even more alarming, we have learned that the National Democratic Party donated $350,000 to Barrett's campaign. This violated the party's own campaign finance norms of not financially supporting candidates in the Democratic primary, because it risks backing a candidate who might lose the primary. However, the party still decided it would intervene in the primary and endorsed and fund Barrett's campaign. I had a station. I updated him on what was going on with the black preachers and the state and National Democratic Party. He was not all surprised. Crackers and Uncle Toms go together like grits and eggs, he said. They no good. A black man has to make his own way. Your daddy knows that, I know that, and now you know that. We are going to have to use the smokeout technique. Smokeout technique, I asked. On the show tomorrow night, I'm going to introduce you, Kevin, to how I smoke out these people. The Uncle Toms and the people that run them, the mayor said. I said, okay. I arrived at the mayor's radio station a half hour early. He asked me to write down the name of a few churches and preachers who did not let me speak or recognize me, but did recognize and let Barrett or her people speak. At 8 p.m., the radio show started. After the local news update and commercials, the mayor introduced me as the guest for tonight's show, as he would during the primary and the general election. The mayor wasted no time. Mr. Antoine, how's the campaign going? Only about 3 or 4 weeks left before the runoff. I want everybody to know who's listening to the show tonight that Charles Evans, a Republican, is supporting this young man now, and if he wins the nomination, I will support him in the general election. I want to make sure that both Mike Park and Margaret Barrett know that the mayor is supporting for Congress in the 4th District, Kevin Antoine, said the mayor. Well, Mr. Evers, I'm having some trouble with some of the black preachers. The mayor interrupted me. You say you having some trouble with some of them black preachers? What kind of trouble are you having with the Negro preachers? He asked with a smile on his face. Well, more than a few times after we had scheduled a planned visit and had been approved to speak, the preacher didn't call me up to speak as we had planned with him. But if Margaret Barrett or someone from her campaign is there, the Reverend will recognize them, allow them to speak while I'm sitting right there in front of them. What you say? Charles Evans. You mean to tell me that right in front of you, them no-account Negro preachers pulled that off? We still got some no-account Negro preachers. What preachers did this? Can you name some of these preachers in the churches in town, Mr. Antoine? How can a black preacher not give a young, educated black man like Mr. Antoine a chance to speak at the church, but then turn right around and let the old white lady speak? Said the mayor, smiling at me as he passed me a note that said, "Smoke out technique." I grinned and said, you know, the names of, which I won't say here and I don't say in the book. I grinned and said, you know, the names of the preachers in the churches. So I'll just make up names. Reverend Jones from Greater Baptist, here in Jackson, Reverend Brown at Mount Zion, here in Jackson, and the mayor cut me off again. Them Negroes? They agree to have you come to their church so you can say a few words because they know you can't stay long. Then instead of calling you up to speak, they call the old white lady up, let her speak as you sitting there. Never call you up. Well, I'm going to open up the phone lines, and I want some church members to call in and tell the mayor what's going on at your church. And why your preachers are treating Mr. Antoine so bad. He went to law school, served in the Air Force, trying to help you Negroes, and some of you Negro preachers treating him so bad. Call him right now. So when you church members and tell the mayor what's going on with your pastor. Like clockwork, the phones were ringing off the hook. Caller, you on the air? The mayor would say. Mr. Evers, this Bo Brown from Greater Baptist. Hey, Bo Brown, you called that fella I told you about? The mayor asked. Yes, I did. He did a good job. Thanks for recommending him. Look, I and many other folks in the congregation were wondering why Mr. Antoine wasn't called up Sunday. Reverend Jones said he thought Mr. Antoine left early. I asked, how you think that? When Mr. Antoine stood right up after you praised Margaret Barrett. The caller said. Shameful, said the mayor. Hello, caller, you on the air? Charles, this Ann from Mount Zion, the caller said. That pie was so good. You need to open a bakery because you make them pies so good, the mayor said. Me and the lady ushers had it out with Pastor Jones after how he did Mr. Antoine. He said he had a lot on his mind and just forgot. You forgot, I said? Well, I forgot my building fund check today. Mr. Antoine just gave me the list of the preachers and the churches that pulled this stuff with him. Get ready now. I am going to call out the names of those Negro pastors so their congregations can know something not right is going on.